enemies, right? There are always enemies. And guys, here's what the Bible tells us. That one of the enemies of the kingdom of God is Satan himself. And here's why. The Bible's really clear that Satan prowls around and he's just looking for people's lives to destroy. You guys, I loved the skit that they did for us tonight. Because if Satan can make us feel like we are nothing, then we will cut ourselves to try to wake our hearts up, and it won't work. We will smoke, we will try to get skinny, we will do all these things trying to make our lives make sense. And Satan's like, ha! I'm gonna destroy you while you're trying to make your life work on your own terms. Satan is an enemy of the kingdom of God. Guys, the other enemy to the kingdom of God is people. The other enemy to the kingdom of God is people. James 4:4 says, those who flirt with the world, those who find their pleasure and contentment, their provision, their protection, and whoever is going to rule over them in the world, those people are enemies of God. So here's the deal. You are either in the kingdom of God or you are out of the kingdom of God. You are either in the kingdom of God as his citizen or you are out of the kingdom of God and you are his enemy. You're like, but I'm not that bad. Yeah, you are. You are. If you can acknowledge and know that the God of the universe gave up his very life for you, loves you, finds you to be precious, and can still say, I want nothing to do with you, you're his enemy. Because I had this clip. It's really just, anybody else total Lord of the Rings fans?
Okay.
Woo!
Okay.
Amen.
So, any good battle scene, right? In any movie, you have that really scary moment where I don't even remember what those little white half-dented face dudes are. What are those called? Orcs. Yeah. So the orcs.
Maybe Ryan.
Right. And they have their swords and they're coming through and they're stabbing people and those what are those birdie things called? The ones that come and swoop down? What are they called? Thank you. Okay. And then you have that, I love this scene, where that big old weird looking Japanese elephant comes through with the spiny thing. And people are flying this way and that way and all the good folks of the kingdom or Middle Earth are flying and they're dying and it's oh no, Middle Earth is going to die, right? And then there's King Aragon, who is trying to protect and save his people. And they're all in this line. And he's talking to his warriors in another scene. And he's there may be a day when the days of men end. There may be some day when he keeps going. And he rides across. And he's but today is not that day, and you're yeah! Thinking they're about to get killed. But and then he's the king, and he's got his. Anybody remember what he says? He lifts up his sword and he charges forward, and he goes, Frodo! Okay, and he rides off, and this big battle ensues. And in the long run, Frodo gets through. Actually, Frodo screws up. But Sam gets the ring into the fire, saves Frodo's life. All the good things happen, and King Aragon sits on the throne like he's supposed to. And all is good in Lord of the Rings Day, right? You guys, here's what Jesus did for us. Battle scenes are great. And Jesus, as the king, fought a battle for us. But here's the weird thing about the battle that he fought. It's almost as like if these are enemy lines. Jesus said, y'all stay, I got it covered. He crossed over enemy lines. And you think, if you're crossing over enemy lines, the goal is to destroy the enemy. Wipe them out. The Bible tells us that while we were yet sinners, while we were still enemies of God, Christ died for us. The King of the universe fought a battle on a cross. And he get this, you guys, he let himself go to the cross. He let it happen because he was the King of the universe. And he could have stopped it at any point. So they ripped him. You guys, we see these nice pictures of Jesus kind of in this white kind of thing. Here's the reality. He was naked. Almost all of his skin was ripped off because when they do the whole like whipping thing, it has like these metal sticky things at the end of the leather. So when it goes like this, it grabs onto your skin so that when he pulls back, it rips it off. Okay, you guys, imagine that happening 40 times. Jesus barely had any skin left. They took like thorns that were like this long, and in an attempt to make him look foolish, they crammed thorns this big into his head. You guys, he had gaping wounds, not just little holes, not little pinpricks. He had gaping wounds on his head with no skin. He's exhausted, and now they've taken nails and he's put him up on the cross. And the only way that he can breathe is to lift himself up on the very nails at his feet is nailed to. And all these nerves are just going nuts. Get this, the very King of the universe fought a battle for you in excruciating pain, and he never gave up. And in the meantime, there's a guy on his left and there's a guy on his right. And they're arguing back and forth, and we know that it's in Matthew and it's in Luke. We know that earlier both of them are saying, if you're really the Christ or the promised King, get yourself off of this cross and take us with you. If you're really God, you would save yourself and you would save us too. Who do you think you are? And they're just angry. They're mad because here's this guy who has claimed to be God, claimed to be King of the Jews, and he's just dying. And they're angry. But something clicks in one of the man's heads. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he looks over at the guy on the left and says, what are you doing? Don't you understand that God is receiving the same punishment as us, only we deserve what we're getting? And he goes to Jesus and he says, will you remember me? And Jesus tells him, today you are going to be in the kingdom of God with me. And here's the cool part. If he's hanging and he's dying, if that thief is dying on the cross, he didn't have time to fix his life. He didn't have time to go back and say, I'm sorry. He didn't have time to go do anything good at all. All he had time to do was acknowledge that Jesus was God and King over the kingdom of God, and he was the one that he could trust.